Yo, huge shout out to the Naughty Gang. If you guys want to get a $10 code of your choosing, all you guys have to do is like this video, subscribe, post notifications on, and leave a nice comment with your gamer tag. Here's the last winner. But guys, I gotta give you guys the top 5 loadouts in Warzone Rebirth Island, and I have come to the light. I've officially tried out one thing that I think beats everything else, and it starts out with the Nikita. Guys, I leveled it up enough to where I have everything that you absolutely need, which is actually level 47. So we are going to use the MX silencer for the sound suppression, horizontal recoil control, vertical recoil control, and damage range increase. You get a reduction of aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. Not a big deal. I threw on the Empress 613 BFA for the recoil control, damage range, bullet velocity, slight reduction of aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, aim walking movement speed. But this is an AR. This isn't really going to be used as an SMG, but if you guys want an SMG build, let me know in the comment section. We're going to move on to the SVT 40 PU scope 3 to 6 times. Now trust me, this is my preference. I don't really think that you should use the G16 in this situation. If you want to, completely up to you, but you actually don't get that benefit of the recoil control increase with this one, so you might as well use the SVT 40 PU. I chose the Empress notch. Now some people choose the Zac MS, and it's completely up to you which one you want to choose. I chose the Empress notch. I think that it's actually better recoil control wise. I think that this isn't really as good as this one, but you know, completely up to you guys. Now sleight of hand is my personal choice just because you can reload really fast. If you want initial firing recoil control, then you can throw on brace, and I have a good setup for you if you wanted to use that. If you want to use brace, you could throw that on, and then you can use hatch grip. Now if you don't want to use that, if you want to use sleight of hand, then you go to stippled grip for the initial firing recoil, and you have that. So you have two choices right there, whatever you want to use. Now this one's personal preference, fully loaded or on hand. If you want better ADS, on hand. If you want max starting ammo, fully loaded, which is what I used in this gameplay. Now the last thing is the Sakura 60 rounds. I do not recommend this one. The Sakura 60 rounds actually has negative bullet velocity and damage range, like decreases. This, you have an increased magazine ammo capacity. The only thing that happens is you get a slight reduction of aim down sight speed and reload quickness. So this overall is the best option, the 50 round mag. Throw on lengthen for the increased bullet velocity, and last but not least, you throw on Carver foregrip for the vertical recoil control and hip fire accuracy. I've seen some people use bipod, and I've seen some people use, you know, like M1930. Completely up to you, whatever you want to use. Carver has the most amount of recoil control, whether you're mounted, you're moving around, even if you're just shooting without doing anything, no crouch or anything like that. This gives you the best amount of recoil control. So this Nikita is the best Nikita to use. Next we're moving on to my favorite SMG, which is the H4 Blixen, and we're going to start out with the recoil booster for the increased fire rate and the reduction of accuracy. Then the Janssen 9-inch RMK for the damage range, and bullet velocity. You get a reduction of recoil control and accuracy, hip fire accuracy, and headshot damage, but that's not a big deal. We're going to use the slate reflector. This is my personal preference. If you want to use the niter, completely up to you, but I think slate reflector is the best option. You're going to move on to the remove stock for movement speed, sprint to fire speed, and aim down sight speed. You get a reduction of flinch resistance, recoil control, accuracy, and aim walking steadiness, but I believe that this is completely worth it. And we're going to move on to fleet for the weapon swap quickness and movement speed. Throw on quick for the sprint speed, throw on groove grip for the AS firing move speed, and horizontal recoil control is going to help you a little bit with the recoil. You get a decrease of sprint to fire, aim down sight speed, but that's what the remove stock is for. Now one thing before I move on, if you can't control the Janssen, you can use the Carlson 17-inch custom, and you will not have as much recoil. You know, this is a huge, well, not a huge knock, but a slightly significant knock at the recoil when you use the Janssen, but this does have the best TTK. Carlson, you'll have a better opportunity to control the recoil, but the Bergstrom has the best recoil control, where you basically have no recoil. It's completely up to you however you want to use it. If you want to have no recoil setup, then this is the one you want to use, but if you want to have the highest TTK, the Janssen is the answer. So moving on, we're going to use the 7.62 Gorenko 54 round mags for the recoil control and accuracy, headshot damage, aim down sight speed, and magazine ammo capacity. So now we've made up for the headshot damage, so it should be regular. You get a reduction of bullet velocity and range and bullet penetration, but the Janssen's already really great in that avenue. Throw on lengthen for the bullet velocity and SG98 compact for the aim, walking movement speed, and reduced scope sway. Next we're using the Armaguerra. You guys know this gun is absolutely insane. We start out with the recoil booster for the fire rate and slight reduction of accuracy. Then we move on to the body 315 MMC2 for the damage, less damage fall off at long range, and bullet velocity. You get slight reduction of recoil and recoil control and accuracy, but believe me, it's worth it. This is actually a setup that I use regularly on stream. stream. Throw on the slate reflector for the 1.35 magnification. Throw on the Armaguerra SA folding for sprint to fire speed and movement speed. You get a slight reduction of initial firing recoil. You throw on the hard scope for recoil control. If you don't want to use that, then you can use sleight of hand, but I think hard scope would be a good option for this setup. Throw on quick for the sprint speed. Throw on hatch script for the vertical recoil control, horizontal recoil control, and flinch resistance. This is a very good setup to have on there. Throw the 9mm 60 round mags for the magazine ammo capacity. You get a slight reduction of aim down sight speed and movement speed. Believe me when I say it's absolutely worth it. Throw on lengthen for the bullet velocity and M1941 hand stop for the recoil control, vertical and horizontal recoil control. If you think you can handle the recoil, then throw on the Mark VI skeletal, and then this can be an even better movement build. Next, we're going to use my second favorite AR now, which is the STG. Starting out with the MX silencer for sound suppression, horizontal recoil control, vertical recoil control, and damage range. You get a slight reduction of aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. Throw on the VDD 760 MM05B for highly accurate and controllable damage range, reduce scope sway and gun bob, and bullet velocity. This is great, especially since it has a scope. You get a reduction of sprint to fire speed, aim walk and movement speed, and hip fire accuracy. The hip fire accuracy matters at least because you're not hip firing this. Throwing the SVT 40 PU 3 to 6 times scope, completely up to you if you want to use the G16. It'll still do good, but just not as good as the PU scope. Throw on the VDD 27 precision for horizontal recoil control and aim down sight speed. You get a reduction of hip fire accuracy and movement build, but the thing is, this isn't really going to be an SMG build. This is an AR, so you're not going to have to worry about movement that much or hip firing or anything along those lines. Sleight of hand for reload quickness, but if you think that Vital will do something, which I thought it did, then throw this on there. But I have a feeling this build you're not going to need it. I put on fully loaded. If you want to use on hand for the increased aim down sight speed, that's completely up to you. Now this one is where it gets interesting. You can use the pine tar grip for the recoil control, hip fire accuracy. Hip fire accuracy doesn't really matter. Slight reduction of aim down sight speed, or you can use the hatch grip for the vertical and horizontal recoil control and flinch resistance. Either one are good. I personally think that if you're going to use one or the other, I mean, you have to look at the pros and cons. I mean, there's really only cons on this one, but if you think that it has better recoil control than this one, then you choose that one. Now you choose the 8mm curved 60 round drum because this is the best TTK STG. Now, if you cannot control the recoil, some people said they cannot control the recoil, then throw the 7.62 Gorenko 50 round mags for recoil control and accuracy, movement speed, aim down sight speed, and fire rate. You get a reduction of damage and bullet penetration, but if you don't want that, then throw the 60 round on there, and this thing will be an absolute tank, especially when mounted. If you mount it, it's going to be really easy to use. Throw on lengthen for the increased bullet velocity and carver foregrip for the vertical recoil control and hip fire accuracy, and this is the best STG build. Last but not least, my favorite movement build, which is the Mark 05. We're going to start out with the recoil booster for the increased fire rate, slight reduction of accuracy. We're going to move on to the Perfetto Lesto 355mm for aim down sight speed, movement speed, aim walking movement speed, and sprint to fire speed. You get a slight reduction of bullet velocity and recoil control. If you don't want that, you can just use the Armaguerra, and then you can have bullet velocity all you want, but this is just a movement build overall. Put on the slate reflector, personal preference. Put on the Armaguerra FR for initial firing recoil recovery, aim down sight speed, and movement speed. You get a slight reduction of accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. Put on frenzy for health regeneration after kills. Put on quick for sprint speed. Throw on taped grip for aiming stability, movement speed, weapon swap quickness, and sprint to fire speed. Throw on the 9mm 48 round drum just because it doesn't really have the cons that these other ones do. So this is really the best choice. All it is reload quickness. Throw on lengthen for bullet velocity and Mark VI skeletal for aim down sight speed and movement speed. Now, if you guys need more help with the recoil, you can throw on M1941 hand stop, or you can just switch it out with the Armaguerra, like I said, and this should actually help you control your recoil a lot more. But this is the best movement build. It'll have you moving around the map the fastest. Technically, if you want even faster, you can throw on the 8mm curved 36 round drum and mag, and then you'll move even faster with better bullet velocity. But I do only recommend that for solos. So this is the top 5. Let me know in the comment section down below what weapon you chose to use out of this top 5 weapons, and let me know if it helped you out. Can we get 500 likes?